Racism. What really is racism? Well, I think it's a combination of things, but at the end of the day, it just boils down to ignorance. You see, I remember growing up. I'm considered a Puerto Rican through blood heritage, but I was born in America, good old United States of America, Lower East Side, New York City, and the identity that people put on you is always one of either race or class. Okay, and the two can be, synonymous with each other depending on where you're at. Now, I grew up. I wasn't wealthy or anything like that, but we weren't poor, but just wasn't wealthy. And I always felt this stigma. I had family members, who would say, people are going to treat you different because you're Hispanic. People are going to look at you. Or I would hear their stories. Man, this, and that because I'm Puerto Rican. This, and that because I'm Puerto Rican. And so you grow up listening to that, and then so you believe it. It becomes part of your identity. And I remember carrying that identity with me. I worked in the mailroom. It wasn't my first job, but it was one of my biggest jobs because it was for an ad agency. And everybody there was Caucasian, and I was the quintessential Puerto Rican mailroom guy. And I remember I was already going in to this environment with this stigma that I am Puerto Rican and that's all I am, and that they're going to only look at me that way and they're going to treat me that way. And I remember in those days, I mean, my vernacular, the way I spoke and the way I carried myself was just very immature, very young, very street. The vocabulary that came out of my mouth was just curse after curse after curse. And it was like I could barely string along, 3 or 4 American words, in our language, and most of it was just based on just filth, and the communication that I had was so. Now I used to communicate well, in that I definitely got my point across one way or another. I was able to communicate, and that's never been really the issue. The issue has always been how I communicate. And as I got older, I started to realize, when I educated myself, and when I realized how dumb, immature, stupid, foolish, idiotic it was to kind of carry this street essence, right? And it's like, yeah, you can come from the streets, but everybody comes from somewhere. It doesn't mean you stay there. And at the end of the day, if everybody's striving to be more, then wouldn't you want to be more of a better individual that will be more productive in society, and not just for society, but for yourself and then your future family? I mean, it just makes sense. So, you start to learn English a little bit better, and then all of a sudden you're called white guy. Okay, so here's this Puerto Rican trying to be white, right? It's the same thing. A black guy will start to speak. He doesn't speak Ebonics anymore, like a Puerto Rican, and all of a sudden he's considered trying to be like a white guy, and it's like, that is stupid. You see, that's the mentality and the mindset of people who love to keep themselves low because it's just easier to be low. It takes a lot of hard work to be something more than what you currently are. And that's in every phase of your life. So even if you're making $1 million, but you're a sucky husband or a poor father, or you don't know how to speak to people, well, you can still have room to elevate and be more. Okay, the $1 million thing, awesome, you got that. Check that box. But, there's a full spectrum of life that we have to kind of cover in order to be a full spectrum person. And so I remember having this stigma And I remember going to Puerto Rico one time, and I was with my cousins, and they were with their friends, and obviously they're from Puerto Rico, and they were Puerto Rican. And I remember, by this point, I was like, yeah, I'm Boricua, I'm Puerto Rican. And I remember my cousin looking at me and was like, "You're not Boricua, you're a gringo," And then he called me gringo because I wasn't born in Puerto Rico. And that, believe it or not, blew my mind because it's like, wow, I never thought of any race growing up. It's like, race is only something you learn, watch out for those black people, watch out for those Asian people, watch out for those white people, watch out for and so, you start categorizing all of these things because that's how you've been taught. But prior to that, you don't even know it. You're oblivious to it because, it's only ignorance that causes racism. So here I am now. I embraced my Puerto Rican culture, and then I go to Puerto Rico. And I remember saying that I'm Puerto Rican, and they laughed at me because I wasn't born in Puerto Rico, so I wasn't even Puerto Rican enough. But that definitely left a mark way back in my subconscious. I wouldn't even say that way back, but it was like, wait a minute. You can't be too Puerto Rican. You're not gonna be too Caucasian. You're not gonna be speaking Ebonics, but you can't speak, English well. You can't. It's like, wait a minute. But these are all parameters and walls that people have put up. And it's like, you know what? I really don't care what anybody thinks. And it's at that time you kind of take control of your life. If you were to forget about the fact that there are even things called races, meaning different races, then we would ultimately just be human beings. But I hate it. I hate it when someone comes up in this world and they came from the barrio and then they went up and they worked hard and they found a way to get money so they can educate themselves so they can get a good paying job and maybe became an entrepreneur and and they elevated. Now that's great. That's the way it's supposed to be. But the whole time that they went up, they were carrying this stigma. Well, I did this and my people are oppressed because they're still down here and they don't have the education and they're not afforded this and they're not. And you go, but that's what you were and you did it. Yeah, well, it took a lot of work and there were a lot of people who were against me okay, so what? That's life. Everybody's gonna be against you. Cool if you find one or two people, but everybody's gonna be against you. So you build your identity and this whole anger and this whole feeling that you have against all these other races and look at my people and it's like, no, you're a fool. You're a fool. You need to worry about yourself. You need to worry about how you're perceived. Do you have the type of vocabulary that warrants people to respect or at least understand you? Do you know how to communicate? Do you speak in a manner that is respectful? Yes, I worked hard too, and I came from here and went all the way up here. So what? I'm not blaming my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and all the people that oppressed them and how I could have been this and should have been this and it would have been awesome if I had this privilege and this privilege. No, this is life. I don't understand it for the life of me. And the problem is, like, if you want to believe that, then that's cool. You can stay down and angry and all that. The problem is that you affect people's lives whether you know it or not. And so you have your friends and you have your family and you might have kids and you speak this way about how these white people and these black people and these Spanish people and you speak that way in your household and you speak that way with your friends and in your community. And so you start poisoning their mind with that. And so they're stupid and impressionable, so they believe it. And now you got a group of people thinking that same thing. And guess what? Racism will never, ever, ever, ever end because, not because it's actually a fact, but because of your own dumb ignorance. Stop putting a label to things. So I don't tell my family, my friends, well, I'm the first Puerto Rican that did A, B, and C. Well, I'm the first Puerto Rican that made this much money. I'm the first Puerto Rican. No. I am the first person in my family that did this. I am the first person in my friend group that did this. I am the first, whatever that is, whatever that accolade is. But why label myself? I say I'm the first Puerto Rican, and then all of Puerto Rico says, like, don't label yourself Puerto Rican. You weren't even born here. Oh, snap. Okay, I'm the first American, and then everybody else is looking at me and going, but aren't you Hispanic or Spanish or Puerto Rican or something like that? And you're like, whoa. So what about if you just label yourself the human being that you were created to be? A child of God who happens to have been born in whatever that predisposition was, and then did what you needed to do for the betterment of yourself, your family, and society. Erase this dumb thing about color, please. Listen, I am considered a Puerto Rican in most people's eyes because it's in my blood. And you know what? I am proud of that. But like I said, even Puerto Rico doesn't consider me Puerto Rican, but that's another story. The main thing is, I came from New York City, being a Hispanic in the 70s all the way to now. And life wasn't easy, and yeah, people might look at you a certain way, but you know what? They look at you in a way that you see yourself. And when I changed my mind and started seeing myself as something more, and I'm talking about way more, and even to this day, I see way more, well, people are gonna look at me the way I look at me. And not just the way I see myself, but the way I comport myself and the trajectory of every word that I say coming to fruition one way or another towards the direction of positivity. So that's how you should be looked at. Stop all the nonsense about you didn't do this and you couldn't do this and people look at you this way and I worked so hard and it was so difficult for me and people, that's life. I don't feel sorry for you. I'm sorry. That is life. That's with everybody, plain and simple. Well, they were privileged and they had this and their disposition was better and that, good for them. Like, great, good for them. And if you're an adult with a child, so what? You should be thinking about the same thing. You're not working hard your whole life so you can provide for your family so that they can be less than what you were when you were brought up. No parent does that. You're hoping that you can provide something, that you can give your kids something better so they're better off. So should they be called privileged too? Should people look at them and go, well, of course, your parents worked hard and you got a good education and you got good this. Are you now a bad parent because of that? It's stupid. It's dumb. Think about the logic. It's illogical. It's just dumb. Racism, if you want to play into that whole nonsense, if I saw a Chinese guy, a white guy, a Hispanic guy, a black guy, an Indian guy, I mean, you name it, put whatever race you want to put in there. If I saw a whole lineup of every race under the United Nations and they all look like thugs and they all spoke stupid and they didn't want to elevate themselves and they were looking like the part of the quintessential thug that you see on TV and they didn't even try to clean up, to be something more than they were supposed to be, and they look shiesty and they look bad and well, guess what? I'm gonna look at all of them and be like, I don't trust any of them. And that's not a racist thing. That is an appearance thing. Well, you can't judge a book by its cover. You're right, you can't judge a book by its cover. Well, once you open the book and you're not in the cover anymore, well, we should be able to see the fruit of how you speak. We should be able to see the fruit of what you've accomplished. We should be able to see the fruit of your loins. We should be able to see the fruit of your finances. We should be able to see the fruit of what you actually input in this world. So yeah, you can't judge a book by its cover, but sometimes that's the only thing that you see. So open up the book and be that person. So as far as racism is concerned, I think it is absolutely, especially in this day and age, to use that dumb, poor excuse. You are a toxin to the world. You are an acid, a putrefied acid stuck in the brains of the people coming behind you with all of this rhetoric and nonsense about race and this. Yes, you know what? If you want to say, here's what the way I see it. We live in the United States of America. Yeah, well, United States of America, it's a melting pot. Yeah, you're absolutely right. All of different cultures come here, but you know what we all are? We're all Americans that happen to be human beings. Look at yourself as a human being. Forget about this nonsense of life was hard and it was harder for me and I really had a struggle and people looked at me because I was Hispanic and people looked at me and I was the first black guy and I was the first Chinese person and I was the... Stop labeling yourself. Now, if you label yourself, and then someone says, "Oh, well, you're black. Oh, why would you call me black? Why would I don't know. It's the only thing that you've been saying for the last 30 years. So if you're labeling yourself and then someone says, "Oh, okay, I guess you're this," don't get mad because they're calling you what you've been calling yourself. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's immature. I think we need to grow already. Stop the shenanigans. Guys, grow up. Everything for everybody is going to be hard in this world in one shape, way, form, or another. Everybody struggles through difficulty in different ways. Some people were born with great finances, but they saw their parents divorce, or they saw their father cheat on their wife with multiple women, or got married a million times, or they saw their mother cheating, or they saw their mother on drugs, or they saw... And so they lack a lot. Good, you were born into money, great, but you were also born into a debauched world where you can't communicate with other people because you're so unbalanced. Okay, great. You were born with two loving parents, but you didn't have the money, you didn't have the finances, you didn't get all the cool extra little presents and toys growing up. Okay, so what? You know, at the end of the day, if you feel that you're that weak, that the only reason why you are where you're at is because of A, B, C, D, E, all the way through Z times 1,000, you're weak. You're weak. You're absolutely weak. And so with that mindset, guess what? You will go nowhere. And let's say even if you did go somewhere, wherever that somewhere is, you are dragging people into your ideology because you're so hurt, so angry, so full of your own thoughts of what you think people are and what you think you are to people. It is your failing. So at the end of the day, if you were the only person on planet Earth and you had no freaking excuse about this or that or that or this, what do? Sit there and die? Cry there on the floor and do nothing? No. You gotta survive. Bottom line. End the story. But my mother and my father and my cousins, and when I was young, you didn't know what I went through. Well, then you don't know what I went through either, okay? And that's irrelevant to where you're supposed to be today and where you want to go tomorrow. It's irrelevant. It might be part of your psychological growth, but it's irrelevant. It may have propelled you and pushed you to become the person that you are today, and that's great. Continue to move forward until you literally die. But stop with the excuses, stop with the rhetoric, stop with the nonsense. I do believe that there's classism. So you can have a whole group of people of all different colors and shades, and they're all multimillionaires in their multimillionaire little academy, right? Well, guess what? They're not seeing color other than the color green. They're not seeing color because they're in a different class. So they don't see race. They're looking at money, okay? So class and classism is something that I believe sometimes gets wrongly synonymous with named synonymously with racism. Classism and racism sometimes are intertwined, but the truth of the matter is there are some elite Hispanics, elite black people, elite Asian, elite so on and so forth that look down at everybody else quite simply because they have money, and it has nothing to do with race at all. And then that person from down looking up might misconstrue that as being racism because you're looking down. They're looking down at you because you don't fall into their category of class, not because of your race. And if you walk around with this whole, well, I'm only this, and I was Hispanic, and that's why, and that's the thing you want to carry around your whole life. That's the weight that you want to carry everywhere in your life. Then kudos to you. You're going to be an angry, bitter person. And whether you consider yourself successful or not, that's on you. But I'm telling you one thing, you're going to make an impact in society one way or another. And if you feel that driving people towards this whole race game and driving people towards this woe is me thing and driving people, then, that's between you and God, I tell you that. But at the end of the day, we all suffer some form of problem in our life that we just need to overcome, get over it, and that's just the way life is. So if you're listening to this message and you're one of those, race baiters, these people who like to use their race for everything, and it's the impetus and catalyst of their whole life, you should be ashamed of yourself. And if you're a person that grew up because you were in poverty and you didn't have a mother, you didn't have a father, or you had both, but you're so angry with them because they didn't have money, and so it puts you in a poor position to start way back here, behind in the race, and you're just so angry at them and you're angry at life. Well, shame on you too. If you get anything from this message, you are responsible for you. And once you realize that, and actually grow up into a mature person and stop pointing fingers, whether it's true or not, because you are still ultimately responsible for you. And once you realize that, I'm telling you, you will be truly free. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is something that's been on my heart, and I still don't even think that I was able to clearly articulate my feelings the way that I really want to when it comes to this subject, because it's such a toxic poison that has divided this nation into tiny little fragments. And the unfortunate thing is that it was divided because of you. So, hope you're happy with yourself.